Okay, I think we're almost live, so I'm just waiting for myself to be able to hear it. And I'm actually going to put myself on this so that I see how I look on my phone. So let's see if I can do that. Hi everyone, it's again Ray from Ray Life Coaching, and today we're going to go over some questions that you might have and Um, I know I did when I started, and I hear a lot from people who are either currently practicing and consider themselves polyamorous, or people who know of somebody or are hearing about it and they're confused. Again, my name is Ray from Ray Life Coaching. Thank you for joining me if you are today. I really appreciate it. So I am I'm gonna just say, hey, if you want to join me on Zoom instead of Facebook today, just look at the comments. Let me see if I can. There we go. Got to share right there. Either look at the comments here or go to the discussion, and it also has the link for the Zoom. You can check me out there as well in real time. Otherwise, you can check out this live stream on Facebook, and it will be recorded so that you can also just view it anytime. And it's might be really good for somebody that you know, maybe a parent, or I don't know about a child, but it's just a really good way of just answering some of your questions. And hopefully, if you're here live, then you'll be able to actually ask a question while I'm doing this. So again, it's 12:03, and we have about an hour to go through all of the questions today. First, I'm going to share with you what I've been doing on Facebook lately, which is doing these 1 hour lives during lunchtime, and they're about coming out. So my name's Ray from Ray Life Coaching, and I provide right now just live chats and some local stuff that I am developing. I live in Connecticut, and one of the ones is this: what is polyamory? And then the other one is confidence toolkit, which is, I think, the first process in coming out. It's what I learned in helping myself be strong in doing really hard things. So hopefully it will also help you. And that is, I think it's the last Monday of the month. It may change mattering upon my schedule. So just check my events calendar on Facebook. You go to Ray Life Coaching on Facebook and just go to the events tab, and you'll see all of the items, all the live things that I have. Okay. The next one is also a new step. It's the next second step to the coming out process. And I am doing that. I think it's the third Tuesday, no, third Monday of the month, but you can check out the events as well to check that out. And that is about manifesting magic. And what manifesting magic is to me, the second step of the coming out process, is really feeling great in your skin. Now you have built your confidence on your own, really having that resource for yourself on a daily practice. And the manifesting magic is really what comes out of that. And the tools that you may need to kind of help yourself come out into the public, because there are tools that you're going to need. And you're going to realize this if you're polyamorous or anything similar to that, that is going against the grain of the social norm that you're experiencing around you. Then yeah, you're going to have to know how to care for yourself, not just on your own in your independent time away from people, but when you're around someone or people who are really having a hard time with it. So that's what that's about. It's about not being codependent anymore, having boundaries, and learning about consent, what that means, and having hard conversations. And those are the basic tools or manual that I have created online. So I'm going to share with you how to go and find the manual and toolkit. The manual is for, see, if I can find it, of course, somewhere. Oh yeah, I have it right here. I'll share that. Okay. So the manual is on my website. So you can go to my website at raylifecoaching.com and click on the More tab and go to free resources. And that's where you would get to this page. And you'll notice that there's the Confidence Toolkit. You can download it here. The Confidence Toolkit and the Manifesting Magic Manual go to the same location. So even if you click on the Confidence Toolkit, you'll have access to both. You'll just have access to a web page that you can download either one of them or both. So that gives you some resources for free as well as today, which is the what is polyamory? And let's answer some of the questions that are on the discussion today. So I'm going to go quickly toward that. Again, my name is Ray from Ray Life Coaching. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so let me share with you my Canva page because it was the only way that I could write things on it. So here we go. I'm going to go a little bit bigger. Okay, so we are, just make it a little bit here. 10 questions. So today we're going to explore 10 questions and see if I can move over here. It's going to let me do that. So 10 questions about polyamory. And I just made these up, right? Because these are things that come up for me and for the people that I know that are really new to polyamory. The first one always is, oh, I'd never be able to do that because I'm too jealous. And it's like, okay, well, that's an honest response. That really is. Because jealousy is hard for many people. And some of the things that I would like start asking people is, when are you jealous outside of a romantic or sexual relationship? And just explore that. Start exploring that and start understanding how you deal with jealousy in response to a friend, in response to a coworker, in response to a family member, in response to somebody on TV. And is it jealousy or is it envy? To really understand what is it that you may be experiencing, not just as a physical level, on an emotional level, saying like, are you experiencing what feelings are actually happening internally for your body? I'd say start there first and start understanding what is it that those feelings are telling you, because that's really what jealousy is. That's what envy is. It's a feeling that you're experiencing that provokes you to want or say something or act on something, right? So, and think something about the other person, about yourself. Start exploring that, because that's the only way you're going to be able to deal with jealousy on a deeper level with someone who you're having even more emotional attachment to. So the attachment aspect of jealousy is also a part of it, right? So how attached are you to this person and what they do? And what does that mean to you? What is it saying about you? So for instance, when I was really young and probably before college, I remember saying the exact same thing. I was like, oh, I'm too jealous. I'm just not, I knew I wasn't equipped. I believed in it. I felt like it was polyamorous or open relationships or having that ability to explore in that way myself made sense. And it made sense to me to be able to allow others to have it, like mentally. However, on the maturity level, I knew I wasn't mature enough. And so I think that question is very valid. because at this point in your relationship structure and what you're dealing with on an emotional level, it just might not be in the cards for you right now. And nor does it have to be. I don't think it means anything other than, well, that's not for you. And that's okay. And when it is, it'll be glaringly obvious. It'll smack you over the head. So I don't think it's a good or a bad. I just think that it doesn't, for some people, it's not a deterrent. And there are some people that will say they don't actually get jealous. And that that's a possibility. I actually, if you are someone who is polyamorous and you experience a lot of jealousy, um, going to someone who says they aren't jealous may not be a helpful place to go. At least for me, it wasn't. Because to me, it's almost saying I shouldn't feel that way. And however, your feelings are extremely valid, and you're never going to get, I don't think you're going to get to a place of acceptance and being able to suss out what those feelings really mean if you're not allowed to even have them in the first place, or if you think it's just not part of the equation of being polyamorous, because it is. Um, and also jealousy is about communicating. So it's not just about understanding yourself and how your body's responding and understanding what those cues mean for you, like asking yourself a ton of questions, but it's also, I kind of lost it there. It's also more about how, um, what's important to you. Yeah, in the end. So I lost it there, but let's go on to number 2, because I am not seeing any questions right now, and I really would love questions about jealousy. So if something comes on for you around jealousy, please let me know in the comments. That would be great. So that would be helpful. Okay. So we're going to go on to number 2, which is time and energy management. So, of course, I left jealousy as open because it is such a big question. So sorry about that on my little 10 question spreadsheet here. So number 2 is time and energy management. So a lot of people may say, like, I just don't got time for that. I don't got the energy for that. I got kids. I got a crazy job. And that, again, is a totally valid statement. A lot of people are like, I don't understand how you even do it. And well, my life is different than anybody else's, just like your life is different from anybody else's. It really is. Even if you have 2.5 kids and a wife or a husband, and you're, stereotypical heterosexual kind of situation, then you and married and living together and all that. Yeah. You might not have cousins, aunts, family members at all that are a part of your life. You may not have that kind of support. You may not have a demanding work environment. You may work from home. You might do your own hours. There might be some kind of other things that are happening in your life that have allowed you to open, have space and time, energy, whatever it is. There may be priorities that you have that you would like to focus on more than your relationships or connections in that way. We'll get to about priorities, because I don't think just because you're jealous or don't have time or don't have energy that you're not actually polyamorous. So that will be described later, but I want to preface this, that these don't actually mean that you aren't polyamorous in nature in some way, shape, or form. And so we're just going to quickly go, what is polyamorous anyway? The basis of polyamory is really just the belief that love is infinite in so many ways. Of course, time, energy, body, energy, all of that is not infinite. So in one space and time, right? So that changes things and may allow for you to not think about polyamorous matters. But, and again, polyamory is not all about the relationship you have with just a sexual partner or whatever type of, romantic partner, because there are people out there who are much different. They are much different. They may have more friendships and they just want that. They may want to be single completely, may be asexual. They may have just a lot of partners and fun time, so everyone's so different. And that's the hard part with the time and energy. It's really about knowing what your priorities are. So for me, I'm going to just give you an example. I don't have children. I chose not to have children for a very long time, from since I was a child. And I have a partner that also is not interested in children. But someday I may want to be a part of children's lives. I may want to be like a pseudo grandparent to a child or multiple children in the future. And that may be my priority when I'm 60 or something. I have an open mind in that things don't have to be in a certain set way. I believe that if I open my mind in a certain way, that I could prioritize my life to to fit those needs or wants. So when it comes to time management, for me, I work from home. I chose, and meaning I did a lot of work to get myself to work from home. It's been about 12 years. And I have freedom in time because I created that. I chose to create that. It wasn't easy, but that allowed me to then have more time for fun. And that fun then led me to have time to deal with my emotions in a way that I hadn't. I had just closed down from the world. And then that also allowed me to realize, oh, all this time I've been polyamorous and just didn't know it. And nor did I have the skills or time to deal with it. So time and energy are huge, I think. Being able to free yourself up and prioritize your life in such a way where you can deal with that, the important things, the things that you want your life to be filled with. So yeah, that's hard. So when it comes to multiple partners, though, I, 6 or 7 years ago, my life looked very different. And, having three partners was different than it is now because they were all, well, two of them were very new. So within 1 or 2 years of time that I had been with them. Now I've been with most of my partners over 5 years. So that changes the dynamic. Doesn't mean things aren't changing, and that I have to change with it, obviously. But because they're not new relationships, it means that I'm not doing a lot more work on trying to understand, trying to learn people's communication style, trying to know what the scheduling is and how to deal with that because everyone's different. Um, and I now prioritize my life and wish I had done this in the beginning around the priorities that I want. And that sounds funny, but for me, now it's about health is my priority. And second there are things that are important to me separate from my relationships. So I'm trying to have my schedule be more about caring for me so that I can show up for my relationships in a better way. Um, because I noticed that if I don't do that, then I'm not a nice partner, right? So, time management is important. How you decide how to do that, mattering upon your partner, who you're dealing with, and your friend, your friends, your family, how whatever you describe these people to be, may be different. One person might not want to deal with a calendar, and one person might not even want to schedule in advance. They might just want to do free floating. Are you willing to do that? It's knowing where your boundaries lie around time management is also can be a difficulty. Okay, so number 3, understanding polyamory or polyamorous relationships. What do they entail? So a lot of the questions that I get from people who are either just starting out or are just heard of polyamory and have are like, how does that work? They say, how does that work? And I think it's a funny question because it's really up to you. It's up to you and the people that you meet that you're interested enough to like work with and be like, is this worth spending time with these people? And then you start to understand, okay, how much, what is it that we provide each other? You might have one relationship where you only see them once a month. Is that good? There may be one relationship that really isn't sexual at all. It's like, you share parental roles or something. And there might be another relationship that you just love doing certain things with. And yeah, there might be like cuddling and kissing. And, like there's a range of types of relationships you can have, mattering upon what you're open for and what you find in reciprocation. I say the openness is really the hardest part. It's like almost allowing yourself and believing that it's out there, and then also knowing what that means. Like, what would determine for you that you could have that relationship with that person? And sometimes you won't know until you meet it and until you like do the investigation. So, understanding polyamorous relationships, what do they entail? What you make of them, really, and what the partners that you are with make of them. And it's a changing, fluid thing. I think that's the hardest thing for most people because in monogamous relationships, there's a thought that it's supposed to go a certain way. And there's assumptions. However, the problem with that is not everybody has the same assumptions. Um, and a lot of the time, monogamous relationships may not communicate with each other what their expectations are of that relationship. And they might not have that conversation even before they decide if they do, or even interested in marrying and getting into that type of connection. So let's get to number 4, debunking myths. Okay, so I'm only going to address a few of them. First off, polyamory is all about sex. No, it isn't. It just so happens to be one of the things is the reason why um, people don't like polyamory. Because we're not a sex positive community or society. So anything related to sex is like, don't talk about it. I don't want to know. Even in sexual orientation, right? So, meaning if you're lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, any of those, asexual, like people just, why do I have to know about that? Well, there's a reason. There obviously a reason because people are discriminated against. And yeah, you have to be comfortable with the fact that, well, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and know how to deal with your uncomfortability around those feelings. I really think it's about communication and feelings, but it all ends up being about something like that. Um, so what am I saying? Okay, debunking myths. So polyamory is not just about sex. It is about really having fluid relationships and knowing that love can be whatever you make it, really, and with whomever you make it with. And if you're not, well, it's also consensual and ethical. So that's a big part of it. If you're not hurting others in the stream of things, meaning if you're not lying, cheating, being deceptive, also coercing, and these are coercing as there's a line, right? There's a place of trying to not pretty much not consensual and not taking people's no and trying to coerce them into something that they literally said no to, not listening. So, but polyamory is not about sex. It can be. It can be about a lot of sex. It can be all about sex, and it can be totally not about sex. So that's why it's not about sex because it could be any of the above. um, and it's about what you make of it. So is it about threesomes? No, that's like pretty much not at all. I mean, I would say it's very minimal. I personally have never had a threesome, nor do I want one right now in my life. But that being said, you might ask a ton of polyamorous people, and I'm guessing a large percentage of them either say they don't want a threesome or that they had it and it's not, maybe not their thing or whatever. So no, it's not about threesomes at all. For instance, I have three partners. They can talk to each other. Sometimes they text each other. They're not in a relationship with each other at all in sexual or romantic. But they're in relationship with each other as almost like pseudo family, like a chosen family, which is really nice. It just so happened to work out that way. Not really my doing, of course, something I'm happy about. Um, but that's not a threesome. It's not about sex. But that doesn't mean another polyamorous relationship is going to look anything like me, at all. So be very aware that your relationships or the people that you know who are polyamorous are probably not at all like that. And so the assumptions kind of have to be out of your head. That's I think that's a big part of polyamory is like, no, talk about it, ask the questions. However, there's a fine line between what someone you don't know, like if you meet someone who's polyamorous, and what you should be asking versus what you should not be asking. um, because just think of it, if you told someone, oh, yeah, I'm monogamous, and they start asking about your sexual life, like, I just met you, like, no, sorry, you know, that just like, put two and two together, like what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Non-committal are polyamorous relationships non-committal? Um, what is commitment anyway? Like really? Like first define that before you start just assuming that polyamorous relationships are non-committal. For instance, does just getting married mean you're committal? Committing. Just that. Okay. However, I know a lot of married people who, one, aren't happy, two, aren't having sex, three, are probably living totally separate lives, barely communicate. So there's this place of like, where are you gauging your commitment level? Really? What does that mean to you? Really makes sense of that because, and also understand that someone else's understanding of commitment may be totally different from yours. And that's okay. What does that mean? Who cares? Really, in the end of things, why is it important for one person to think, oh, well, if I live with someone that's more committed, and that I need that. I need that from every sexual or romantic relationship I have, or to a certain extent, the closeness of relationship I have. And so I live with my family. I live with, that may be the case. There are a lot of people who have their mother, grandmother, aunts, uncles, all living in one little space. And that's how they like it. That's what they want. That's what they, see as a strong bond. And that's good. You know what you want. However, there are other people who, want to live alone, and however they have like really strong ties with their friends, really strong ties with whomever else, and they see them daily or they talk to them daily or they don't, whatever it is, whatever feels right for you. So I'm going to say absolutely not. Polyamorous relationships have commitment levels or commitment things in them, And it's all based on the people involved. So, for instance, I could have a relationship with one person, and I find that our connection is amazing, but I only see them once a month or even once a year. And I only see them once a year, but I talk to them on a monthly basis, and they are like a really inc- incremental, really large part of my life. And does that mean that they're not important? So, and the reality is, if I say that they're important, they're important. So that's what's, I think, valid. And like, I would never argue somebody else's perspective on what is valuable and important to them. And so that's the part about asking questions like, what is important to you? What does commitment really mean to you? I really, like, I'm curious because all of us are so different. Okay, so the next one is parenting and polyamory. Um, I'm going to really quickly touch on this because I'm not a parent, but I do have family members who have children, and I came out during a time that they had children that were young, and it was hard. I can only imagine that it's probably even still hard for them. And I could only guess that someone who is coming out, especially kind of like later, or maybe if the people who are involved with the children of yours um, are not at the same place as you in regards to polyamory, or how to communicate about polyamory, how to feel about polyamory, then there's going to be a disconnect, and it's going to be more difficult. Um, so the only thing I can say is that how you feel, like when someone brings up, oh, I'm polyamorous, I have three kids. Just notice how you feel, and then realize that that feeling that you're getting from someone coming out or someone being that is what you're taking with you and what you're communicating to your child. It's just what it is. Whether you like it, no matter what the great words are, no matter what the great actions are, that feeling body that you're having in you is being translated into, it's like a wave that's going through all your actions and all your words. Just like when you get an email and it makes you real pissed and you're like, yeah. And if you've learned, don't do that. Wait, step back, take a day, respond later when you're feeling good, because the reality is you communicate how you feel, whether you like it or not. And so that's really the main thing I'm going to say, because I think that feeling that you're getting, if you're not addressing that feeling, even you may still have it. You may be like, hey, mommy or daddy or whoever, however you call yourself, is having a really hard time. And I want you to know that what comes off is how I'm feeling. Then that is honest. And you're coming from an honest place, even if you're still having the feeling. Obviously, you may still have to go through, right, the motions of and the words, but it'd be like, hey, I recognize that my feeling that's happening because I'm uncomfortable is being translated into the words that seem contradictory, but I want you to know I'm working toward this and I believe in this, even though I'm having my own stuff. Of course, you're not going to be able to say that to a 2-year-old, right? you know, Gauge your audience, and that's the hard part in parenting or being a part of a child's life, is that I really do think, though, that kids are easier than adults and that their brains are forming, right? So they will learn on their own time. And, if they're 6 or 12, there's going to be a different reaction, mattering upon what they've learned beforehand or what they're hearing around them and what they're feeling around them. It's going to reflect in how they're responding. But that doesn't mean that they're not able to eventually understand if they sense that you and the people around them that are closest to them are keeping it safe, and also helping them to see that you can grow and the people around them can grow and can feel strong and secure, even if something's scary and a little nebulous. Okay, sustainability. So, are polyamorous relationships even sustainable? And I guess what that brings up is like long lasting, right? And so, the one thing I say is the value doesn't have to be in how long, but how good and what you've learned from the relationship or connection. Um, so what I mean is, I think our society puts a lot of value in like this escalator thing happening, and I'll talk about that in the next question. Um, where you date and then you go steady, and there's certain like physical things you're supposed to do a certain time, I don't know, and or not, depending upon your beliefs, and you're supposed to get married or live with each other, or you're supposed to meet the parents, you're supposed to go on vacations together. There's like these things that say, oh, this is serious, and that will help keep the relationship going to the next goal, like, and that it can't just be good. Like, this is just good the way it is right now. Like, I go on dates and the dates are always great, and we talk and we help each other grow, and you know that's good. Doesn't have to be it. We don't move in with each other. Maybe some of the things we do, but that's just because it works for that person. Maybe not. It's like the relationship doesn't have to be valued by this kind of hierarchy of steps, um, in the escalator, but also it doesn't have to be valued by the length of time. So sustainability is really about, I think the question is more about length of time. And I totally understand that. I am, brainwashed too, to believe that the longer it is, the better it is, but it's not always true. And or the longer it is, the more I've succeeded, like I've won the game of relationships. And the reality is no. Because then you might start doing things that aren't really good for you or for the other person. So, I am continuously having to remind myself, that it's okay to de-escalate a relationship, or to like change the relationship to a different way of being. It may be like you saw each other, a lot every week, and now it's more like once a month. How do you move from that place to another place? That seems like in a monogamous relationship would be like, we're done. You're I'm not talking to you for a while, and then maybe we can be friends. Yeah, right. you know and so in polyamorous relationships, I'd say there's more consideration for relationships looking differently and moving what may seem down the escalator, right? But might not be. You might become really amazing friends, and you rely upon each other in a way that you wouldn't have been able to if you were doing it the other way. And I know it's scary because our society doesn't exactly show that as being a prize, but it may be a prize. And that's kind of like the part of it that we have to remind ourselves, is that when we're doing something that feels really good, that's the prize. At first it might seem like it doesn't feel good because society says, oh, you just lost, you failed in that relationship. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's that you're listening to yourself, and you're being honest. And I think that's a big part of polyamorous relationships, is to be very honest with yourself and the people that you're with, as to where are you? and where do you wish, what do you think it needs to be right now? And that can change. So the next one is contrasting mindsets between polyamory and monogamy. There's a lot here. I'm just going to touch on a few ones, one of which I already said, which is the relationship escalator. And there's a book on that. And of course, I don't think I have it with me. Let me see if I can search the name for relationship escalator. Who is the writer of that? Someone else, please tell me who the writer is. Um, I'm really bad at that. Okay, hang on. Oh, okay. Stepping off the relationship escalator, Uncommon Love and Life, book by Amy Garan. Garan. I pronounced that wrong. But so check that out. It's, I think, a really great book to look at. Even if you're monogamous, it's kind of like, oh, well, no wonder I feel the way I feel. It's like being monogamous doesn't mean you can't choose, right? And be honest and be, all these things I'm saying about polyamory, really. Polyamory is really just deciding to maybe having more space and time for, and you don't have to even be active, but I think it's more of a headspace of like, um, that I can have, that I believe that I can love more than one person, and I don't know, just like thinking about I can be attracted and have both. Um, it, I think, is in itself a hard thing for people to think about in love and sexual relationships. And I think that's why a part of it is why sex is so in people's minds when they think about polyamory. They think, oh, sex fiends, sex addicts. But the reality is that, I don't know if polyamorous people really have more sex exactly. Maybe not. But they, I think, are just doing relationships the way they feel that feels good to them, right? So for instance, like I have more, I have three partners and I consider them very close. They are like my chosen family. And I I have some friends, but I don't really consider them that close. However, there are people who have the reverse, right? Who have a lot of friends who are really close, or they have a lot of just friends in general, and they may not have any partners. But they may also consider themselves polyamorous. I have a partner who once, well, was monogamous, and I don't know, they may consider themselves kind of like just overall polyamorous now in thought, and not in action in so many ways, but more, I call them friend polyamorous, because they to me were romantic with their friendships in a way. They put so much energy into their friendships in a way that I I'd never seen in that way before. Um, So contrasting mindsets between polyamorous and monogamous, I think it's really about kind of this social norm, and also like sex positivity comes into it, consent comes into it, really understanding or trying to understand honesty with themselves in a way that conflicts with what they're seeing around them. Um, and you might not actually know that you have this going on, like I didn't for a very long time. So um, for me, I was pretty closed down from my social environment, because I realize now that that was the way I had to be in order to protect myself from not being aware. It like helped me not be aware of who I was. Um, so I recognized that what I was seeing externally wasn't stuff that I agreed with, meaning I didn't exactly agree that, my love relationships or that there was one love, really. I felt like the love I had was great, but I didn't really consider that. I believed that there was love everywhere, and that I loved a lot, and in different ways. And I recognized that my friendships were in different degrees. It's just different. Sometimes I would spend time with someone and they would bring certain things out in me I didn't even know existed. And that's what I love. That was the point for me. And it was also like this learning that was so important. But what happened for me is opening myself up to more of that meant that I had to be aware of who I really was and what I really believed. And I recognized that it wasn't safe. So, the contrast of mindsets, I would just say really paying attention to what you truly agree with happening outside of you, what people are saying you're supposed to be, how your relationships are supposed to look. And if it wasn't, are you getting grief from it? And do you agree with that? Do you want it to be that way? And if you don't, if you're like secretly dreaming about something else that you think for some reason is going to happen in the future, but it would mean everyone would have to die, then there's something wrong. But sorry, I'm just joking. But just that's what contrasting mindsets between polyamory and mono brings up for me, and what also the idea of fitting in instead of really belonging. Understanding what that fitting in may mean, that in order to fit in, you have to close yourself down. And that's why I say I'm a coming out coach, specifically for polyamorous people or people in that way, are noticing that what is outside of them is not making sense to what they believe inside and they would like to be more of externally. So, and belonging requires that. I think true belonging really requires that you really do feel that the people around you see you, and that you're valid and important. Okay, so number 8, making your polyamory public in your social landscape. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you make yourself public in your social landscape when you were something else before, or you've been hiding for so long, or like what happens? um, you know, what happens when you come out? So what I wrote down here was where are your boundaries around how people will treat you and those you love? So what I'm saying is just pay attention to what people say around you. You might find that you have friends that say something about their love life and how they're dealing with it, or their relationships and how they're dealing with them, whether it be friends, coworkers, whoever. They're telling you what they believe, really, and how they're going to treat you if you kind of go outside of their scope, right? Um, and that's just not just a warning sign, but it's also comforting because you can see who people are around you already. Um, and it may come to pass that if you're somebody who's coming out, that you might be very surprised on, and rightly so, but also not, because about someone and their response to you. Um, the reality is that people only know what they know, right? And I'm not going to excuse the behaviors that happen, but we are all pretty much brainwashed by our stories, and our ancestry and the society in which we live. So it is understandable that people are are having a hard time and responding inadequately, really. Um, but pay attention to who you're around, and of course, I'm talking in the response of that you're a polyamorous person or someone thinking about being poly. But if you're not, if you're somebody who, has a friend who is polyamorous, just know that they are hiding themselves and, they're not able to talk about their relationships. And they may find not just the one you think is important, all of them important. So, and at the moment, one might stick out more than the other because of what's happening right now. And they're not allowed to talk about that. So just be aware that just like, in the 50s, lesbians and gay people were not allowed to, you know, don't ask, don't tell. It wasn't just that. It was like, don't ask, don't do any of that. We're going to ignore that. We're going to pretend it doesn't exist. So that's not a fun way to live because it means that no one will ever know you. And the reality is that person will probably never feel close, never feel safe. Um, and you might be in the place that you don't want them to feel safe. Well, then that's probably not, this is probably not the right live show for you right now. Um, choosing number 9, choosing polyamory. Is it a choice? And is it a lifestyle? Or is it something else, like a way of understanding love? Um, so I say that because a lot of people like, oh, I actually, in some ways, may describe my coming out as a choosing. I can't say that I chose to be polyamorous though. I think I always was. I just didn't know it. And I don't think I was able to come out or even hear myself and be honest with myself earlier. So the timing was right for me. And so in that, I say there were things that I chose to do, which was, I also felt like I was forced in some ways. Um, but that's, me. I chose to go independent and become an entrepreneur about 12 years ago because I was at my rock bottom. And that was really important to me. But that allowed me to have time, space, energy, the wherewithal, and the maturity eventually, socially, to realize, oh, because I started to do things socially more. And I was so closeted socially for a reason. But once I came out, socially, it really made me realize, oh, I I'm polyamorous. I mean, I didn't even know what the word was until someone told me. And that's why I'm doing this. This is why representation is important. Words are important. Polyamory, the word is important just for the sake of people don't know and they may be experiencing some issues in their life due to it. So is it chosen? No, not really. I think it's kind of a dumb question actually, because what does that mean? Because when someone says, "Oh, you chose it," it's a judgment. It's an assumption that they can de-choose it, unchoose it, whatever the word is. And is it a lifestyle? Well, you could go to multiple polyamorous people and they're all going to say something different. And this is why communication is so important, why I'm having this discussion in the first place. But I would say for me, it's an orientation. And it means it's a way of understanding my world, really looking at my world. It not just has affected my relationships, but it's affected like how I see everything. And so very understandable that someone responded to it saying, no, it's not just about relationships. And you're like, you are right. you are right. For me, it's about how I see my life through a different lens. And it's something that I think I always had, but I didn't allow myself to really accept it and be honest with myself. So I would just say talk to, your friend, or investigate with yourself what is really happening. But the choosing and the lifestyle, I think the question about choosing is like not the right question, to be honest with you. Um, I think it brings in judgment, and it starts to question whether or not you should or should not be something. You just are, it's just what's happening. And and things may change, and that's okay. You know, that's to me, that's what polyamory is all about. It's like things change. That's it. Okay, number 10, handling external opinions. Okay, so here we are. We're right here, right? This is what the questions are all about, because there tends to be a lot of assumptions, judgments, beliefs, and all of the baggage that comes with coming out as polyamorous. Um, how do you want others to treat you? And if they don't, what are you willing to put up with, if anything? So, so in the beginning, when I came out, I just told everybody, because my goal was to be out, 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 because I felt like I could, and I wouldn't get that much retribution. And I was right, thankfully. Yes, I could have lost my, longstanding relationship. I could have lost my family. I could have maybe even lost all my clients. I don't know. I could have lost my friends, maybe. I have no idea. But in my situation, I didn't. And I was lucky, really, and privileged. I'm very aware that I'm most likely privileged. So, and that is why I was coming out so boldly. However, there is a place where I have learned where to come out and where not to come out. This is where I'm coming out. um, so, one of my partners said, people will teach you and show you, and have to gain your trust for certain information about you. So decide where that lies, and that goes both ways, meaning like if someone comes to you and says, oh, I have 3 partners, and you're like, do you have sex with all of them? Why is it that you think that you can ask that question? Like these are like, how close are you really to this person? If you're private and you've been talking about sex in the conversation already, and you're really close to that person, still you might be like, hey, I'm going to ask a personal question. It's really just about curiosity. You have every right not to answer this question, but I'm curious, are they all sexual relationships? That's an honest question. But for someone who's like not your friend, not, you know, there's a place where, we have to pay attention to how invasive we're being with people, and really just pay attention. But also be aware, as a person who's coming out, like that person's showing themselves to you right now. And you have every right to be like, that's not really a valid question for me to answer. We're not at that stage in our relationship or connection. But thank you. Have a great day. Maybe prepare some easy things to kind of decline and deflect people from saying things that are inappropriate and too close for comfort. I'm going to end here. We got like not even 2 minutes left. And I want to thank you all for viewing this presentation. And next time we will be talking about something else related to polyamory. And I'm just going to look at my description here. So our next time is May 14th. And we're going to talk about what are the tricks to dealing with jealousy. Woo! This will be fun. So I'll see you then. Hope to see you then. Have a great time, everybody. And thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate it very much. And let me just stop sharing and have a great day. Bye.